bit about Lee Gould. Her poems and essays have appeared in Magma, Quarterly West, the Berkshire Review, Salmagundi, and many other journals. Her work has also appeared in several anthologies, including Infiltration, which I edited, Burning Bright. Her chapbook Weeds was published in 2010. So right now she teaches contemporary poetry at Bard College's Institute for Lifetime Learning. You've curated for several years Arts Walk Literary up in Hudson. That was a really remarkable weekend-long poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction weekend. And you taught writing for a long time at Goucher College in Maryland. So I want to welcome you. Thank you for coming. All this
Is this working?
It's working.
Oh, good. Okay. So I will show you my journal is back on the table back there, and it'd be wonderful if you would look at it. And we publish writers from the United States, Canada, and Mexico in the language of your choice. We also will publish translations, but we don't have to. So whichever language a person is comfortable in between Spanish and English, we haven't gotten up to French yet, we will look at your work. So I can talk to any of you who are writers who might like to submit one of these fine days afterwards. I got pretty lost here and coming here. Hi, Peter. And so I often get a little bit confused in my life situation. So I thought I would help you learn who I am and what I'm like by reading a poem about that. This poem is called Untied. I feel untied, tried, as in put upon, but more loosened from, as though I were only partly invited in, or inverted, put upside down in the opposite direction, back to front, as if I were somewhere else, but not firmly. So when you talk to me while I'm working, I start pulsing as though counting, then a lurch. But it's not my stop, a loop-de-loop, a trick pilots in old days prided themselves on, which must have caused nosebleed, at least mentally. How come the co-pilot didn't fall out, which at moments like these feels exactly like that? The next poem is similar in that I was leaving Mexico to come back to the United States, and I realized, because I've flown back and forth quite a lot, that it seems to me I'm always on this plane tightening my seatbelt. It's like I'm always there, because I don't like doing that very much, and somehow I'm negative, so I'm sort of always there. So this is called Wherever I Am. Wherever I am, I find myself tightening my seatbelt. But today, I'll keep to the courtyard, right the poinsettia into bloom. Somewhere, a parrot screeches. I imagine it green and yellow, waiting to take off, and stare at the graying metal bins. My backpack stowed. The waiters leaning into the white stucco on the runway. The plane waits. I tissue the dusty porthole, contemplating the parrot's noisy annoyance. A family shushes their restless twins. Underneath my seat, my purse, I wiggle it with my toes, relieved it hasn't slid. My wallet is on the table. In one pocket, dollars, in the other, pesos. The waiters compare new car prices, offer coffee refills, and tomato juice with those little bags of peanuts. Have I forgotten anything? A motor turns over. The sun glints off the wings. It's our turn. My friend orders sopa de ajo and enchiladas. Why not try the old standby, sopa azteca? Okay, so now I'm getting more organized, and I'm going to read poems that are not exactly love poems, but they're about relationships. This is called And There We Were. And there we were, your taut face, me on the margins of myself. There was no bargaining. I wanted to loll in the warmth of emptiness, but I'd fallen for someone. She showed me her walk-in closet papered with foil, plants climbing like a prison break towards the fluorescence, fronds unrolling all over each other. What next, I wondered, as she slammed the door behind us. This is called Love Crime. The Indians claim the fort, the whites, the whole country. I'm stuck at the arroyo, her yearning mouth. She's glad for last night's straight talk. I fixed on her receding hair, her pale curls, below her ears the lines I used to kiss. She found the film not real enough. Of what was she bereft? She drags my jars across the kitchen table with her knife tip. Can love be insisted upon? I'm surrounded by doves with zeros for eyes. Candlelit, my eyes slit. She sees my jawbones, blunt, hair, rough, like my grandfather's as he wrestled pennies from the cash register. She rises, the sky, her eyes, waiting for what I do not do. This poem is called The Bridge. If I have a watch, I can stop on time. The Bridge. This is really, well, I don't know, you can figure it out probably. The Bridge. We approached the brink of a very green hill. There's the river, I said. The bridge was made of mud, dripping mud. Although the street below, for it was a street, was sheeted with that mud, cars streaked through it. 3 jangling women approached single file. How could they walk in those stilettos, the kind I'd always wanted? In his cape, my companion looked the villain. Was I in a comic book? Chattering, they began crossing, almost dancing, over the melting span. The man placed his foot against my ankle. Suppose I fell, suffocated in the mound the bridge was becoming. We stood there at the top of the very green hill. Okay, this is another in the same sort of series. This is called Lines Composed Upon Learning My Ex Had Left His Long-Time Live-In. That hat, the bow, too dressy. Give it a yank. Who likes purple anyway? But if it's fastened with Gorilla Glue, you'll be stuck with it. Ha ha. The way you dress now, like a knob in fog. Fess up, you miss him. Do you think stirring the air like a doll on strings will bring him around? Look at you, reading motion into the phone silence. Remember the car, the cell, the seat's edge. You borrowed strappy sandals. The pin he gave you smack center on your black dressy dress, if that didn't wow him. All you could see were your bare knees edging out the car door. Ever thought how different it is to prod a person than a cow? You're just trying to tenant your emptiness. Read The Fall. Parting. The vision of his duffel bags, the creamy canvas stuffed to bursting, swinging with each step he takes towards a limo, and chants. The word selfish flashes, nearly grounding her. The late day sun bounces off her sharp heart-shaped gold necklace. Pure, she feels somehow pure as her hand drifts up, waves goodbye beneath the bluest sky. Yes, it's like hitting 3 cherries in a row. The bell, the slam, the silence before the coins begin to flow. Okay, so that's enough about love. Now we're going to nature. It occurred, this was from the first issue of La Presa, which isn't it a beautiful cover? I mean, it's really gorgeous, right? These poems are, I sort of think that everybody says that Darwin suggested that we come from animals and everything, but I have a feeling that we're evolved from plants. This plant is called Touch Me Not. I mean, this poem is called Touch Me Not. But it is a local plant. You can go like this on the orange flower and it'll leap around. Touch me not. If it isn't perfect, it's nothing. By it, I mean he or she. Although sometimes when, sometimes where. A silencer comes with my weapon. And when I unholster, line up my shot, fire, I disappear just like that. The lovely orange in the little Christmas house. Only I'm still there, but with something up my sleeve, which is goodbye. Okay, so the next one is called sporangium. Do you know what a sporangium is? It's a creeping fungus. It crawls over the grass, and it sort of eats everything in its way. And I think I was thinking I was too dependent or something when I was writing this. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, here's sporangium. It's called, there's another common name for it. Does anybody know about plants, funguses? Okay, we'll do a sporangium. I clothe you in an airy sheath, adhere to your glossy surfaces, shade you, cozy you under the hot sun. At last, you think you're getting the hang of it, the give and take of life. But make no mistake, when you look about, the you see in stretchy unfolding, the curves you didn't know you had, flexible, reaching, you in all your agency is me, and I'm hungry. Okay. But that is what those things do. They just crawl along and eat things. The third poem is called Ivy. I'm very popular. Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for anybody else to leave. Ivy. The crevices you try to hide, I admire, nestle into, blossom. How sturdy you are. I flutter in your shadow. Is my attention flattering my leafy attractions? In moonlight, you gleam. I darken, wither. But each day as you hold me, I grow. My roots thicken in you. I become your extremities, the fingers, the dancing feet, or more accurately, your glittering fringes. In time, I'll spread myself over you, your masonry, your ledges and openings. Even as you crumble, I'll hold you. Okay, I think I'm gonna change things a little bit here. Okay. One of the things that happens in Mexico, at least in the town that I live in most of the time, is that people decide that what they really want to do is be Mexican. Only they're not comfortable with that. And so they start eating street food. And so this is kind of a dramatic monologue, or, well, maybe not a dramatic monologue, but one of the problems that I have seen, in fact, I've experienced, of going into a market where everything looks so delicious. And of all the things that really look good, it's like seafood soup. And you know, like, we Americans, seafood soup, wow, this town's nowhere near the water, like, what am I doing? But everybody's having a really good time. So this poem is called Street Food. And imagine a person, probably a woman, a little on the older side, who has done it. She's ordered this Morisco soup. Morisco means shrimp. Street food. And Morisco soup actually is all kinds of seafood. If the oyster has a black center, is it healthy? Could it be only slightly infected? The gray blob floats in the sopa like a dirigible drowned in a red lake. She pushes it around with her spoon. The black resembles Oreo filling, only not white. Slips it under the partly open clam on the side of her bowl. How much does a clam have to open to be healthy? Its ridged meat is visible, pink. Is everybody around here thinking about their relatives dead in the desert? The extra large pièce de resistance is a striped crawfish. Its thin shell adheres. Its little finny legs drip soup. Beautiful. Too raw for her to eat. Her pile of discards is now bigger than anybody else's. They're all dunking their bolillo rolls, swabbing up the soup. Hers begins to dissolve. Looks like wet feathers. That was fun to write. Okay, we're going to switch now, and I don't think of myself as an innovative poet, I have to say. So I'm going to read something that is truly not innovative. This is called My Mother Was Never Beautiful. My mother was never beautiful, the photographs prove it. Though she bragged she was especially cute. My father agreed. He had to. Frankly, I never saw it. She had black hair, really black. Everybody else who had hair that looked black actually had brown hair. My parents said black hair was rare. Here's one picture of her holding me or my brother. She's wearing a house dress, one of those little wraps with little flowers all over it. Her shoulders hunched up and the baby lying there in its blanket right under her nose. She was probably afraid she'd drop it. She never felt confident. Once she said she'd like to be one of those people sitting in the entry of new apartment buildings who showed apartments to people. She loved apartments. I said, why not? But she just replied, oh, pooh, which meant it was beneath her or she was afraid. I'm not sure when she began aging. Maybe that's not something you one day begin. But suddenly, she was different. Her permanence wouldn't hold. Her wash and sets didn't last an afternoon. She began showing up with spots on her clothes. That must have been when the macular degeneration set in, which she didn't like to admit, only she gave up reading. She liked to give up things, but the reading, I think, got to her, and all of a sudden, she had this thin, white, wispy hair and was only 4'8" and yelling about being hungry all the time because in the health center she decided to move into, when she got lonely, they gave her appetite enhancers, which was probably a mistake since she'd also given up walking. She got fat. She began to look like she was sitting in the middle of a lake of herself. That's when we called hospice. Once they showed up, the appetite enhancers stopped and she began to look kind of normal. They always go downhill when they come here, the nurse on call said when I asked what the hell was going on. I was younger then, so I tended to accept what people said, especially when they wore uniforms and seemed sure of themselves. Straight narrative. Okay. This poem is called Blanche. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, which is south of the Mason-Dixon line, and I did not go to any integrated schools. In fact, the only African Americans, or as we call them, Negroes or coloreds, that we saw were our maids and the handymen that came around. So this is called Blanche, and this is kind of true. Blanche was our cleaning lady. Blanche, 1947. Once, getting canned goods from the pantry in the back basement, past the maid's lightless toilet, I eavesdropped on Blanche crying in the shower. She didn't give me my money, she didn't give me my money, her high-pitched sing-song. I sensed the darkness in the bare metal and porcelain room. Behind the cast-off curtain, a shapelessness. Through the drizzle, the thin sound of leave well enough alone. When I was a child, there were not often lynchings in Maryland, but there were some, and the Ku Klux Klan used to march in Annapolis, which was the capital. Okay, this is called, I guess I'm going to read a few poems about being young. This is called the juice extractor. A juice extractor is what you get orange juice out of. I don't think they call them juice extractors. They just call them juicers now. But these were heavy metal things. The juice extractor. I dreaded the burst of skin, the wet flesh expelled in shreds, the obedient trickle of juice into a blue pitcher. Candy syrup, she'd announce, handing each of us a glass. Fresh squeezed juice betrayed with cod liver oil and molasses. Why do its dregs persist when more serious torments are forgotten? We didn't rebel, didn't pour glue into the bulky arm, though we talked of it, didn't smash the iron cap with our father's hammer, didn't hide the strainer in the wood pile where we disappeared the rectal thermometer. Each day on the countertop it stood, the enemy general primed for our surrender. This is another poem called Family. If I'm going too long, just tell me. Family. She was on her knees dusting the rungs of the kitchen chairs. Don't be fresh, she said to the child who was concealing his odd thoughts in the spiral school book she'd found behind the kitchen door. Fresh, she said, meant flip. Talking back was as bad as interrupt. Every day he wrote his interrupted thoughts while she dusted the fresh philodendron leaves. Flip, she said, meant stay in your room. He handed her the watering can from his hideout behind the kitchen door, watched her on her knees hug his sister, who told all she knew of the spiral of broken thoughts lying open on the kitchen floor. I think I'll read maybe two more poems. Is that about right? Okay. Let me see which two. Oh, yeah. Well, that's sort of innovative. That's good. Okay. This is called The Knife Drops into the Deep. Oh, my watch is gone. Oh, well. The knife drops into the deep end of the pool, where its shadow becomes a coiling snake, seen sideways, a species from a dimly remembered house of reptiles. The swimmers rise like a series of water-spewing fountains, compose themselves as family again in the grass. Their babble creates melody, theme, and variations, cacophonous in a contemporary carnal way. Laughing, they plunge back in, roil the water into endless shadows, while the knife, forgotten, glints below. Okay, I think I'll read one more. Okay. This is The Mountain. The mountain. Who is that speaking out of my mouth? Am I the person she talks to on the way? Consider the orange tree in the courtyard, its specific number of ripe oranges, those that are apparent, those that are hidden among leaves. Tomorrow, the number will change. Show me the orange that is concerned. Am I insensitive to the eye of the orange tree? Weren't we all at Sinai waiting for Moses to descend with the commandments we'll disregard? Thank you.